Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the channel. I promised more people than I can even keep track of that I would make this video this year, really this month. It's taken me 21 days to do it, but what do you know? We are finally here. I wanted to touch on my mastery setup, which I'm calling my 2022 mastery setup, but that's within some potential minor tweaks. But for the moment, I have this setup. Now, it's an expensive setup. It's a very expensive setup. If you're looking for a cheap mastery setup, this is not for you. If you're looking for a mastery setup that's great for Alliance War, this is not for you. If you're looking to have general questing and sometimes arena, then great. But you also have to remember that a lot of the mastery setup that I do is curtailed to two things. It's either curtailed to be the best for champions like Omega Red, who very much benefits from a full suicide mastery setup, or it curtails, I'm using the word curtails more than any other video in the history of my channel, with this kind of mastery setup where Domino is my main champion, but both Nick Fury and Deadpool X-Force are here for the restoration kit synergy because I know that I'm going to lose a certain percentage of health because of the way that suicide masteries work. This is also my suicide mastery setup for when I have to do months like this month with the Cavalier Event Quest skill path that has heal block. Thankfully, Aegon makes that bearable, but I still drain a lot of health, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So, a couple things that are a little different about this than maybe some other channels you'll see. The first is that I've kept courage 1 out of 3. That's fine for me. Some of you swear by not just 2 out of 3, but 3 out of 3 on it, and nothing ever else. I get it, but I don't really miss it or feel like I miss it. And then 4 out of 5 in precision. The difference of putting that point somewhere else and keeping that 4 out of 5 has been fine for me. Again, I get if you want to go some other way or some other direction, but for my needs, it's a good mastery setup at 4 out of 5. Now, 5 out of 5 on the left is only for one category, and that's still cruelty. Critical damage rating is everything to me, not just because I love using champions like Corvus, and that is always going to be 5 out of 5 in any setup. Now, I've got full glass cannon. This is the thing. If you want to do half suicide mastery, or I guess technically it's a third suicide mastery, I would say max out glass cannon. It's an expensive mastery. Everything on the top right and bottom right is incredibly expensive, but it is so worth it. And when you get to the point where you never want to get hit, you're fine taking damage if you parry, you're fine taking maybe some block damage, but you're going to intercept, you're going to dex, you're going to make sure you never actually get hit. You won't notice the 7.2% decrease in health, but you will definitely notice the 7.2% increase in attack. Always keep 1 out of 3 in recoil. You don't need anything more than that. I don't even know why they offer more than that. Maxed out liquid courage, again, very expensive, and so is double edge. Shout out to Omega Red for doing crazy damage, though, when both of those are maxed and he's at a maximum sig. I have 1 out of 3 in despair, 4 out of 5 in deep wounds, and 2 out of 5 in assassin. I guess if there's one area of this that I sometimes debate, it's going down to 3 out of 5 in deep wounds. I used to use Blade a whole lot. And I even love using champions like Wolverine. But my main champions now aren't champions that stack bleed, because my main champions that I use are Aegon, Corvus, and a combination of Apocalypse and Cable, or Doctor Doom. Even Black Widow, Clairvoyant, I enjoy the bleeds on, but she doesn't justify a 4 out of 5 in deep wounds. So that one's, I'm kind of thinking about tweaking, but you don't want to use the units to reset your mastery setup just to get 1 point and recover it. We're still waiting on Kabam to do their freaking job and actually give us the ability to have different mastery setups that we pay X amount of units to switch between without having to reset everything. And I have to take screenshots and go from there. All right, for defense. Salve is maxed. Again, that's not the most popular choice for some people, but it's great for me. Recovery is maxed. I think that should be a given for anybody. 4 out of 4 in block proficiency. I'll kind of explain when I go to proficiencies, formerly known as utilities. And then I do enjoy stand your ground. You get a decent PI bump when you keep it at 2 out of 5. Why all those points on defense? Because that is the minimum that I need to use willpower. And if you think I am bleeding and poisoning out a decent amount of health from my suicide mastery setup already, you should see it if it doesn't have willpower, especially maxed. And then I prefer this coagulate. Again, I used to use it too because Blade was the champion that I would use most. Now, maybe it's actually hurting me with Corvus. You know, I'm about to take Corvus. Well, I shouldn't say about to. Who knows when I'm going to do it. But Corvus to rank 4. So the bleed actually helps him heal with that willpower and everything else better. So, in a way, maybe I should take off coagulate. I don't know. I'm debating it. That's another thing in the back of my brain that I'm juggling. And you might say, well, where would you put those points if you take out coagulate or at least lessen it? If you take deep wounds down to 3 out of 4, well, if you go to proficiencies, it is a bare bones setup. I have 0 points in Petrify, 0 points in Pacify. Those used to be 2 staples of my mastery setup for like 2019, maybe even 2020. I do think I only support 1 point for sure in Dex and only 1 point as well in Limber. But Parry, you could argue, benefits most from 3 out of 3. I have noticed when I parry that 1 out of 3 works just fine because I have 4 out of 4 in block proficiency. And so that's how I justify 1 out of 3 in parry. I don't know how many units it costs to do this setup, but it's well over $300, $400 worth. It wouldn't surprise me if it was over 12,000 units. So again, if you're looking at this, especially if you're free to play, this is not the mastery setup for you, but maybe you can borrow some things that I do depending on which champions you enjoy. I will say, I haven't talked to people in a while about this, but it used to be the age-old policy that if you did Alliance War, you could not set defenders that took recoil damage, as it's easier to take down your defenders when they knock themselves out with spamming special ones. That wasn't always the case, though. When I would go up against somebody who had full suicides and they had an Iceman on a path and I didn't have Cold Snap immunity, I'd lose half my health just passively as the fight was starting. So I have seen it not always be the case where it's hurt defenders, but I think still in general it hurts more than it helps if you've got suicide masteries on. However, I would never be in an alliance where I had to constantly switch back and forth because it's just way too many units, and to me it's a waste of units. Sorry it took a little bit longer to get this out than some of you would have liked, but hopefully it's worth it. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. I appreciate the support as always.